The stock market is still reeling from the Trump tariffs in day two. Well, it's even worse. The Dow finished down about 5% in a similar story on the NASDAQ. So to help us make sense of some of this, we welcome back Michael Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
What have the last 2 days been like for you?
Busy. Key in moments like this is communication. I feel like, at least with our existing clients, and so it's been a lot of phone calls. But the key point that I've fortunately been able to make to them is, look, this is what we prepare for. You never know exactly what it's going to come from or what's going to be the proximate cause, but being in this business that we are, which is professional money management, you have to prepare for moments like this that we are seeing. But there's a particularly large amount of volatility. You mentioned the Dow and the NASDAQ, the S&P 500, closing down nearly 6% for the day, 10% over the last 2 days. That's a big swing by any way you measure it.
No, I can imagine that investors are right now are shaking their heads. They're stressed out. So what are you telling your clients, especially those who may not have the time to recover from these losses?
Well, I think the fortunate position that I'm able to inform people that I work with is we prepare for this. We talk about this regularly. We meet regularly to get prepared. And for a lot of folks that are in that similar situation of perhaps retiring soon or needing to touch those funds soon, hopefully they're in that position too, of having thought through what a moment like this means. It doesn't make it necessarily less scary. I think there's plenty of angst out there, especially when you mix it with as much politics as this market sell-off is, inextricably intertwined with. That adds a lot of emotion to the situation. But that's what I just continue to tell people to ask themselves. Do you feel as though you've had conversations about something like this with either yourself or whoever is handling your funds for you? And if so, oftentimes the right solution is don't do anything. If not, then it would have been great to start 2 days ago, but there's no time like the present to get started on those conversations and analyses.
And right now we're seeing the biggest single day drop since the pandemic. So what are the long-term effects from these massive drops?
Well, I think that remains to be seen. Forget about the massive drops in the markets. Unfortunately for investors, this is the price of doing business in stock markets. On average, they go through this type of slump and volatility every few years. The S&P 500 is now 17% off of its all-time highs. We experienced similar types of volatility, worse downturn in 2022. So it has not been so long since we've had this type of downturn. And then again, as you pointed out, since 2020. What I get more concerned about is what are we restructuring this economy to, and what are we risking in terms of, perhaps intentionally causing a recession in order to get the new world trade order, as President Trump seems to see it, in place here. And that can become a slippery slope quickly if that recession, which we are, not there yet, but if we do get to that point where job loss accompanies this stock market sell-off, then it largely leaves the control of the White House in terms of where that goes next.
And on that note, how long do you see this trade war lasting? And really, what's the end game here?
I wish I knew. I think the president knows in his mind what the end game is, and has some intention in terms of where he wants things to go here. But how long does it last? Which direction does it go? It comes down to, hey, are these negotiating tactics, and will some of these tariffs be negotiated away, or is this some new vision for the future, in which case it might take quite some time? So I don't think anyone can answer that question. The fact remains that we are seeing tariffs, the likes of which we haven't seen in 100 years. So anybody that thinks they might have the answer here, I hesitate to buy that one. I think we will have to wait and see just how permanent these end up becoming. But they're not even in place yet. There's another 5 days before the effective date, and depending on where negotiations go, you could see this swing in any number of different directions.
All right, Michael Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. Thank you so much for your insight.